This is KGW News at 11.
And our top story tonight, closure in a heartbreaking crash that killed a local family. A jury today ruled two mothers intentionally drove their SUV off a California cliff, killing themselves and their 6 children.
The decision came down after a 2-day inquiry into the family's deaths, where some eerie evidence came out. KGW's Mike Benner's been following this case from the start. He joins us now with the latest. Mike.
Well, Laurel, you know this is a case we've been following for more than a year. That's when the Hart family vanished from their Woodland, Washington home. Days later, their SUV turned up at the bottom of a cliff in Northern California. A jury of 14 people had to decide if the family died from natural causes, suicide, an accident, or intentionally.
It gives closure to those people who are closest to the Hart family.
Closure more than a year after a Woodland, Washington family's SUV drove off a Northern California cliff.
The tragedy of the 6 children murdered should never be forgotten.
A jury ruled that 6 adopted children were intentionally killed by their mothers, Jennifer and Sarah Hart, who, according to the jury, intentionally killed themselves.
Literally thousands of hours of investigation and searching have gone in the last year to come to the conclusion that we heard today. Investigators
told the jury about data from the SUV. Before it flew off the cliff, it went from a stop to full throttle in mere seconds. Jennifer Hart was behind the wheel with high levels of Benadryl in her system. In the hours leading up to the crash, Sarah Hart was on her cell phone, Googling.
How can I easily overdose on over-counter medications? Is death by drowning relatively painless? How long does it take to die from hypothermia in water while drowning in a car?
Detectives also testified about allegations of child abuse. One case in particular. One of the kids ate pizza in the middle of the night. Jennifer Hart found out.
Jennifer had pulled Jeremiah to the side and taken him to the bathroom. We don't know what was said in the bathroom at that point, but when they came out, she ordered him to go lay face down on the floor for the rest of the day without food.
More evidence leading a jury to declare this a case of murder-suicide, rattling even the most seasoned investigators.
Our society is often too busy to forget the sanctity of life, and we're experiencing that now.
And the sheriff says this case is now closed, but he's pleading with lawmakers to create a federal database to track child abuse allegations. There were several accusations against Sarah and Jennifer Hart in different states in the years leading up to this deadly crash. Back to you.
Mike Benner on the story for us tonight. Thank you. Scenes like this, they're playing out more and more often across the country. First responders getting hit or nearly hit while they're trying to help others on the sides of the road. Already this year, 17 first responders have been struck and killed in the line of duty nationwide. And experts say careless and sometimes distracted drivers are usually the ones to blame. KGW's Lindsay Nadrich spoke to a Hillsborough police officer who thankfully was not killed but was injured after getting hit by a driver. Lindsay?
Well, the officer I spoke with could have easily died that day if just a few small things had been different. He says officers getting hit while working along the side of the road happens far too often.
You know, you're just leaning over talking to the person. Next thing you know, it just wham, and it literally hits you like a semi-truck.
Hillsborough Police Sergeant Clint Schurz was a motorcycle officer working along Highway 99 in Sherwood when this happened. A driver fell asleep going 55 miles an hour and hit Sergeant Schurz's motorcycle,
which then hit me, and it threw me out into the lane of travel on Highway 99.
This was in 2007, but he still remembers what it felt like.
I was knocked out for a short time there. It was the hardest hit I've ever had in my life, and I've played sports and football growing up, and it was one of those things you're unexpected, and you're not ready for the impact at all.
Unfortunately, there's no shortage of videos like this. Here, an Oregon State trooper narrowly escapes getting hit by a pickup truck while he's grabbing some garbage off the road. This officer in Minnesota had to jump out of the way as a car slammed into her patrol car. And you may remember what happened last year to a trooper in Utah. I'll warn you, this one is graphic. He stops to check on another car that slid off the road, and a driver slams right into him. He had several broken bones, but survived.
And this is by far a very dangerous situation that officers face every single day across this nation.
The National Safety Council found in a survey more than 1 in 10 drivers admitted they've either hit or nearly hit a first responder or emergency vehicle stopped on the road. Under Oregon law, drivers are required to move over if there's an emergency vehicle on the roadside. And giving that extra space to emergency responders could literally be the difference between life and death.
The first responders and the emergency personnel are out there every day to make sure that we are safe. Let's do our part to make sure that we're keeping them safe.
It's not just officers getting hit by drivers. Road crews are at risk as well. SAFE, the company that insures a little more than half of all businesses in Oregon, including the Oregon Department of Transportation, says they get more than 100 claims a year from workers injured by drivers. So remember to move over and slow down. Back to you.
A good reminder always. Lindsay, thank you for the report. We want to give you an update right now on the toddler shot in Salem last night. Police say the 2-year-old girl remains tonight in critical condition. She's at Dornbecker Children's Hospital. They say they have not made any arrests in this case. They are still investigating. We don't know yet what led up to this shooting, how it happened, only that the toddler was shot inside of a home on Bradley Drive Southeast.
Investigators are still working tonight to figure out what started this fire. It burned 20 homes in the Wilsonville community of Villebois. Today, they put out a call for witnesses that might have video. Specifically, they want to see what the area looked like before the fire and right as it started. We know the flames began in a building under construction. It had no power or gas lines connected, which likely rules out 2 big accidental causes. A fire investigator who's not working on this case gave us an idea of what investigators would be looking for.
Was there anybody doing any recent work to the structure? When was somebody last there? When did somebody first get there? Do you allow smoking on your site, whether it's construction site or not? So those are the ignition sources we have to eliminate.
The city of Wilsonville hopes to have the streets around the fire site back open in about a week.
So we have some heavy rain moving through right now. It's just the beginning of what's going to be a very wet weekend.
Let's check in with Joe Ranieri in tonight from Matt. Joe.
Hey there, you guys. We've already seen about 1/10 of an inch of rain today, and a lot of that has fallen in just the last couple of hours. You can see why. We've been picking up some heavier cells moving in earlier just a couple of hours ago near parts of Yamhill County and kind of working its way into parts of southwest Washington and near Mount St. Helens at this hour. We'll zoom in a little bit. Most of the Portland metropolitan area is going to be seeing some light showers here in the next 45 minutes or so. Going into the overnight hours is really when the rain will start to pick up. So I have this queued up here early tomorrow morning as we start to see some dry conditions, but also seeing some showers move in just about the start of the morning commute. And then by tomorrow morning, 9:30, 10 o'clock is when we'll be seeing some of those showers really pop up. I am expecting to see drier conditions by late tomorrow afternoon, along with the rainy conditions we'll be seeing heading into tomorrow. It's also going to be very windy, especially along the Oregon coast with gusts anywhere from 20 to 25 miles per hour. I'll talk more about that coming up in your detailed forecast in about 10 minutes.
That's a lot of color on the radar.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Remember the man kicked out of a Portland hotel for, as his lawyers put it, talking on the phone while black? Or how about the Oregon lawmaker who had police called on her for campaigning while black? A new bill in Oregon would allow someone in their shoes to sue the person who called police. That lawmaker is one of the supporters of the bill.
You've been accused now of being somewhere when you're just living your life. And there is no recourse for you to seek any sort of justice. You're just repeatedly, not to say a victim, but you're repeatedly subjected to someone questioning your validity.
House Bill 3216 would let someone sue in small claims court for unlawfully summoning a police officer. It would cover anyone who believes having the police called on them qualifies as discrimination under the Constitution. The bill heads to a committee vote next week. If you want to take a look at the details, we have the full text of the bill on KGW.com.
We saw rallies across the country today calling for the release of the full report by Robert Mueller. People gathering at Portland's Waterfront Park this evening, saying the full report needs to be released for the sake of democracy. They say not doing so would be obstruction of justice because the report was commissioned and paid for by the government.
We're not doing this for power. We're not doing this for politicians or for a party. We're doing this for the people. We deserve a government that thinks about the people first, that acts to make people's lives better. And this is one step toward that.
At the same time tonight, NBC News is reporting some members of Robert Mueller's team are frustrated over how Attorney General William Barr presented their findings on President Trump. They believe the evidence that the president obstructed justice is stronger than the Attorney General publicly suggested. Democrats argue this validates their calls to see the full report. The White House is dismissing the concerns.
Let's not forget that the people that have been involved in this process, they've wasted 2 years of their life, and they need to find a way to validate it.
The Justice Department says Barr needs to redact sensitive information from the report, which takes time before it can be released publicly.
It's devastating. Yeah. It's like reliving that day all over again.
Heartbreak today for the family of an Illinois kindergartner who vanished almost 8 years ago. The person who came forward yesterday claiming to be that boy was lying. 23-year-old Brian Reaney told investigators he'd escaped from an Ohio hotel after being held against his will for years. He said his name was Timothy Pitson, a boy who disappeared in 2011. Police do not know why he lied. They say the 23-year-old was released from prison just last month for burglary charges. He's in police custody now, but not currently under arrest.
Next, a bill to stay on daylight saving time in Oregon all year round passes the Senate. But see the hurdles it still needs to clear before you can stop changing your clock.
And Oregon's governor putting some pressure on Washington to get a new I-5 bridge built. We'll be right back.